You get me? In the garage with Phonetix and BrainZ.
Yes, bruv, how's it going?
Hello, mate. Happy New Year. Feels weird saying Happy New Year. It's like the end of January, but
I got told
get
off.
my drift.
Bad luck after the first week or some nonsense, but Happy New Year to you too, sir.
Oops.
Yeah. So this is BrainZ coming live from the BrainZ cave.
And I am Phonetix, coming from my living room. I don't know.
It could be a cave.
It could be a cave. It doesn't look much like a cave, does it? It's
the Phonetix layer. Who knows? I don't know. So did Father Christmas bring you anything good, mate?
Father Christmas was good. Yeah, I've been a good boy. Always a good boy. So, got treats galore. I'm assuming being that you were on the naughty list, you got nothing but coal.
Oh.
Otherwise, is it false? It's false advertising otherwise, isn't it?
My missus looks after me, so I must have bypassed the naughty list somehow. But
wait, so you're telling me I can take the piss this year and still get presents?
Well, I can only speak for myself, sir. If you've got like some sort of your missus at home is not treating you right, well, that's not a discussion for this podcast. We've got a fancy new smartwatch that was there. Thank you very much, Father Christmas, and new headphones for the PlayStation, all sorts of stuff. Nice. I was looked after for sure.
Excellent.
Doing dry January as well. Look, I haven't labelled it dry January, but I haven't had bourbon for a couple of weeks, and I thought I'd be feeling amazing, like jumping out of bed, like on tiptoes, at 7 o'clock every morning, and I probably feel worse, if anything.
Your body's still detoxing. My first question to you was going to be, where is the booze? Because I had noticed the lack of a bottle by your side there, so that explains that. Actually, I hadn't picked up on the dry January, so thanks for the clarity there.
I would have been plastered, mate. I reckon. I'd say it's been this is the longest time I've been without bourbon for quite a while. But I did get a wicked bottle of Elijah Craig for Christmas, which is one of the best bourbons. Highly recommend it if you've got more money than sense.
Is that all gone then? Did you drink that?
No, I'm savouring that.
You're savouring that for February.
Can't bring myself to drink through it, mate. Can't bring myself to drink through it. So for those of you that may be brand new to the podcast, we normally kick off with looking at our top 3 favourite tunes each from the last month. Should we kick off into this month's selection, mate? What you got for us?
What have I got for us? Let me check my little list here. Going to kick off with something in the Garage House domain, available now on Soul City Digital. I'm really feeling this one at the moment. It's really stuck in my head. And for that reason, I had to share it. I thought it would be a good one to talk about. This is Make It Right. It's by an artist called Backup Plan.
Deep inside, think that you know. Deep inside, I think you know that you were wrong. Give you one more chance to show that you decide to make things right. Deep inside, think that you know. Deep inside, I think you know that you were wrong. Give you one more chance to show that you decide to make things right. Make it 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 right.
Oh, was that a little 2-step break there I just heard going into?
Indeed. I love the way it does that as well. It's quite unexpected, isn't it? It's an all-round solid production, as we've come to know and love from Soul City Digital, the same label that regularly brings us high caliber quality from Changing Phases. It's just a real nice vibe. It just brings a smile to my face every time. Every time I listen to it, I'm just like, I like this. It's just really nice. Sing along, catchy stuff, slickly produced. I'm not 100% on the bass patch. Like every time I listen to it, I'm just like, I'm not 100% on the bass patch, but I can forgive it because it's just such a, nonetheless, it's just such a feel-good vibe. And yeah, it just gets me nodding in my head, man. Just can't. Even now, I'm sitting here with the microphone. I'm kind of nearly headbutting the microphone because I can't stop popping.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stop talking and dance. You talk.
I like the I like kind of like the haunting pads in the start and the drop. That's quite a nice way that it builds up. Vocals lovely. I said to you before the show, I think 2022 is the year when Garage House starts to come back through again. I don't know what has started the trend, but I from just watching what's going on in the scene TM, it just seems like Garage House is the way that people are slowly starting to move towards. And you've got kind of those ones that are straddling the bumpy 4/4 with the Garage House kind of side. But there's lots of it happening. There's a few compilations coming out that's got all brand new stuff on. But you know, on this specifically, Soul City Digital obviously just got real high quality artists on their label, and this is a kind of nice one to add to their roster for sure. Really enjoyed it.
Big up Soul City Digital. It's I'm loving it. I've had it on loop the past couple of weeks. It's just right stuck in my head. More please. And I know they will oblige, so I don't mind saying more please.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're top pick. Should we go? We're going to my first one.
Yeah. What you got, man?
Right. So this is from an artist. I've only ever heard one of their other tunes, and I really like that tune. And then I've noticed that they did this remix, and it came out. So I need to find what the actual proper artist name is. So this is Whois times Indigo Eyes times Tora Lamb. That is the original artist. The song's called Sad All the Time, and on the remix we have an act called Tyde. Yeah, I'd kind of put this into that category of grown-up garage almost. Just a real nice combination of sounds. The tune that they did before, so Tyde remixed a tune probably 7 years ago now, I guess, by an artist called Izzy Bizu called Give Me Love. And I played that tune so much that I absolutely loved it to death. And if you've never heard that tune, please go back and find it. It's such a wicked remix, and it was great to just see Tyde have another tune come out that I say, this is the only other one that that's ever been on my radar, shall I say. And yeah, it's not like the most hyped tune. It's quite chilled and relaxed, and when the drop comes, it doesn't really make you kind of suddenly start going mad. But it's got like a whole bunch of pleasant sounds. And it was a real nice way to enter 2022 for me.
For sure, I think use of the word pleasant there was very apt. I think that's probably a good word to use for it. Very pleasant, and as you said, growing up, it's very very nice, soulful, chilled. All good words to use for it. The beat skips along nicely. It's got a nice sort of quirky, plinky little percussive sound in there, which is slightly off the wall, but not too out there that it kind of catches you off guard. It's enough to kind of create interest, isn't it? Nice kind of soulful chords riding on top of that, and the vocals nicely done. I can't speak, for the original really to comment on what's been done in terms of the remix, because I've never heard the original. I just know as a whole, in terms of this track as a body in itself, appeals to my palate perfectly, because it's a nice skippy soulful stepper. What more can you say? I like it.
I love that you can do all this critique over the bad sound of a Skype line as well, which is really super impressive. And I hope you check back after when you listen to it after the episode and go, oh yeah, no, I was bang on. I got it.
Well, no, do you know what? I think it's testament to a track. If you can get a vibe for it over a Skype line, that says something, doesn't it? Because if you can appreciate the vibe of something musically, then obviously there's something in the chords and the vocal performance. Do you know what I mean? If you can still appreciate it in spite of the terrible bit-crushing quality of an appalling Skype signal, that's saying something. Yeah, there you go.
Completely.
Hopefully the next one comes across nice and juicy because it's got plenty of low end, and it would be a shame to waste that over a Skype line.
Well, the next one is straight out of the label fostered by the Crown Princes of Southampton themselves.
Indeed.
Yeah.
One from Garage Shed's Ones to Watch 2022 EP, which I do believe was released yesterday. This one from Ben Hydro is called Astronomer.
So many nice elements in there, mate.
That's cool, isn't it? It's just fucking cool. I mean, you made the observation about like there being a lot of sort of garage house stuff bumping around at the minute, but there's also I've observed there's a lot of this kind of bumpy, almost kind of Lost Years-esque 4/4 doing the rounds, which kind of almost treads a line between kind of the newer 4/4 and it's not garage house, obviously, but it kind of leans somewhere. It treads a line somewhere that maybe the garage house lot could get on board with as well. Do you know what I mean? But like, there's this track. There's a few doing the rounds at the minute that the first thing I thought when I heard them is you could take it, you could put it in those Lost Years that kind of we came through in like 2005, 2006, and it wouldn't sound out of place, and it would have set Prolific and 4x4 absolutely off. Like that kind of skippy 4/4 drums, those bouncing bass lines, those kind of jazzy keys. They sort of real feel good vibes. Really makes me smile every time I listen to it, and it just it's not kind of treading any new ground, but the ground it is treading, it's treading it very well. It's doing it really nicely. It's really slickly done, and I would like to hear more of it, please. Ben Hydro and Garage Shed, definitely.
Yeah, no, it's properly polished, and the keys in the drop at the start, the freestyling he's doing there is phenomenal, absolutely wicked.
Yeah.
I mean, they've just started pushing this Ben Hydro guy. They've put a couple of his bits out. I don't know how much other stuff he's done. I know I've got all of the stuff that I've found of his so far, and he's up and comer quite clearly, and he is, as they've said, one to watch. A great get for Garage Shed, and it's a wicked tune, eh? Top work, Ben. Thank you very much.
It goes back to what I was saying a minute ago about like you could, like if you get that kind of musicality and the vibe comes through, like even if you listen to that like over a phone, bit crushed and at a terrible resolution, like you would still get the vibe coming through. Do you know what I mean? It's those vibes. A vibe's a vibe, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's just like those keys that are going now. I can just hear it coming through in this terrible Skype quality, and it's still making me smile. So loving it.
Properly good work.
Sorry, mate. I'm gushing. On to the next one.
It's a good EP all round. There's 4 stompers on there.
It is. It bodes well for 2022. Really, that whole I could have I could easily have picked any of the 4 tracks on that EP. There, you know, any 4 of those could have been discussed as one of our top 3s, couldn't it? You know, it's a good start to 2022 for sure.
Cool. So my next one's a bit grimier than me other picks that I've got this month. It's out on Steppers Club, and it's by a guy called Hamdi, and this tune is called Creepy Crawlies. What you really need is a fat system to hear that huge sub bass kicking through underneath it that real gives you a proper kick up the arse. Hamdi is a guy that he's definitely just starting to get the props that he deserves. He's done, over the past couple of years, he's done some proper wicked kind of grimier tracks. And when he does tunes as well, he switches it up a bit. So like, they're not always kind of straight 4/4 beats. Like he puts little switches in there and dropouts that really throw you. And I don't know whether that's held him back or not, because it might make a few DJs a bit kind of like, oh, how do I mix this kind of thing? But the stuff that he's done, I've always highly rated him, and I can just see he's getting out there more and more now. So this is just a kickoff to the year with a bit of grit. And you really do need to have that fat kind of system to get the sub bass up the old knackers. But yeah, I just thought I'd showcase this one. Big up Steppers Club for putting it out.
Yeah, for sure. I think basic human psychology, it's like that fear of the unknown, isn't it? I think when it crosses over into musicality, when people start experimenting, if you do something a bit different, it does tend to put the frighteners on people, and particularly DJs. And when you're looking at a niche genre, people are kind of a bit reticent sometimes to pick up on something if it is a little bit outside of their kind of typical bubble and breaks the rules of what they're used to hearing, and perhaps that has been the case with Hamdi. He does get very creative, I would agree, yeah, for sure, with what you're saying. It's interesting that you picked this one off the release. I actually I was frantically searching for it online when you started playing this one, because I couldn't remember the name of the other tune on the release, and I just wanted to kind of look it up. My pick of the two, because I remember listening to this when I came across it on Beatport, I actually preferred Rejuvenated to this one. And I think nothing wrong with this track per se, but that main lead line, the synth patch that he's used for it, can totally appreciate why he's called the track Creepy Crawlies. And actually the use of that synth patch for that lead line is perfectly appropriate for a track called Creepy Crawlies. Hey. Couldn't help but jar me a little bit. Like, it's creative, and I'll give him that. Like, he's achieved what he set out to do, but like, it just kind of turned me off a little bit. And I think that's why I was kind of leaning towards Rejuvenated myself. But for sure, I definitely think it's like you said, it's definitely a club track, or even like a track for blazing in your car if you've got a big sub in the back. It's the type of track, when I was 17 and cruising around with my fucking ridiculous sub in my car, I would have been absolutely caning that one, because, yeah, you play that on a system, and you... Even on my little fucking shitty earbuds now, when it kicks, you can just tell when that bass goes, that's just going to absolutely tear the roof off on it. Yeah, big up. Steppers Club always coming through with the quality as well. I'm always excited. Every time a new Steppers Club release drops, that whatever it is, and I like it because they mix it up as well. Do you know what I mean? You're not necessarily getting, I almost feel like they do themselves an injustice by being called Steppers Club, because you're kind of expecting it all to be two-step, and it really isn't. They put out a lot of 4/4 and a lot of experimental stuff, but it's always high quality.
Yeah, they had a good freebie at Christmas and all.
Do you know what I mean?
If just for anyone out there that chases the freebies. There's a 4-tracker they put out for free on SoundCloud that had 4 nice bits on. Worth tracking that
Am I
down.
imagining that? Did that come out on Christmas Day, or am I imagining that? I might be getting that confused with something else. There was something came out on Christmas Day which made me smile.
I don't know if it was that one or not. I know over Christmas there was a 4-tracker they put out, and one of them is actually they've labelled it as by the Steppers Club, which is interesting. I don't know who's behind it to do the production on it, but yeah, say it's worth grabbing. Say it was a freebie. It's always nice when you get high quality tracks out on the freebie. Same with obviously Garage Shared put out the 12 Days of Christmas or whatever, where there was 12 free tunes they done over the Christmas period. Lots of stuff on Christmas.
Who doesn't love a freebie, eh? Who doesn't love a freebie?
Me indeed. And big up Duncan Powell for putting out all of his Dragon stuff for free once again on his Bandcamp. If you haven't grabbed that, dive over to the Props. Duncan Powell, the big man's Bandcamp. So yeah,
Props for that, Duncan.
That was my bit of filth. You got some filth for us coming up now, right?
I do. This is my sort of wild cards. We kind of unofficially stopped doing the wild cards thing, didn't we? But I thought I would throw a little bass, a Langtastic bass action into the mix this month. So next up on Deep Rot is a track from Tom Ball by the name of Dumb, and I love it. It's I'm about to get my gritty bass face going. So hit play, please, Mr. Brains.
Annoying sound in the world.
The first time I properly listened to that, and now I get why it's called Dumb, where the sample comes from.
It's a great little sample as well, isn't it? It like you can't get to the drop and not chuckle. It just the first time I heard that, I was just chuckling away to myself, and then it dropped, and I was just like, yeah, nice. It's like a perfect update on Speed Garage for 22. Do you know what I mean? It's all those kind of elements of classic Speed Garage, but just kind of updated slightly, just kind of slightly cleaner. Whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess depends on your original take on how Speed Garage used to sound. But it's just rammed full of energy, arranged nicely, smacks you in the bass, plenty of bass there. It's gritty, it's hard hitting. Ticks a lot of boxes if you like that kind of bass heavy, hard hitting stuff. I can see that doing a lot of damage in the right context, played in the right club.
Yeah, Tom Ball does that kind of up-to-date Speed Garage sound quite well. He's been out a couple of years now from what I've seen, and he's always in this area when he's making tunes. And yeah, it's made for a specific audience, does it really well. And he's out on Deep Rot, which is great. You know, Deep Rot have got their audience and have obviously made quite a good brand for themselves over the past few years. My one criticism is going to be that they're now putting themselves as an artist on every release they put out. And come on, Deep Rot, you can't. You're a label. You're not an artist. All this PRS hackery is it's a poor show. I don't know. I think everyone's just trying to make a penny every now and again, right? Somehow. But you know, it was a good pick, but for the label, a good shout. Bit of a 4-4 filth. Never hurt anyone, as they say. So yeah, nice Indeed. Shout.
Top stuff.
Yeah. Should we move on then? to my last pick.
Yeah, have you got any filth to follow that up?
No,
are we on a come down now?
This is the complete opposite. We are going into.
Oh, nice.
This is. We're going back over to the other side of the world, mate. This is Japanese vibes.
Oh, lovely.
So, I wish I knew more about the Herb Shop, but there's a few of their tunes that have started to do the rounds recently. And this tune by the Herb Shop is called Summer Retour, featuring a vocalist called Yosumi. And on the remix, we've got a guy that we've heard a bit of recently, Kyo, alongside someone else called Tom-i. So this is Summer Retour, Kyo and Tom-i remix. 's a real fun stepper. Vocals lovely. Got no idea what she's banging on about, but real nice vocalist. The selection of sounds they've used really appealing to my ears. I instantly went for it. The steppiness of the beats, wicked. It's a little bit 8-bitty in places. I just love lovely composition, and it's just got that perfect mix of the Eastern sounds from Japan along with all of the UK garage bits that I love, and I really like this one. Really liked it.
I definitely considered it recently when I was doing some updates on my jazz step playlist on Spotify. It's interesting. I know we've obviously talked at length in the past about Spain being kind of UKG country of the year and whatnot, but I think Japan is kind of hot on their heels. They're absolutely killing it lately, and Kyo is at the forefront of that. He's doing a lot of really great stuff. He's one of a number of artists who's really smashing it, and this track's a prime example of that. Like, as you say, the sound selection, the palette of samples and synths he's used there it's really creative, and creates a really nice texture. It's just really fun. Yeah, I think the word used is fun. It's just really fun to listen to. It's nice. It's a really creative remix. I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot.
I super enjoyed it.
Everything I hear from Kyo just makes me keen to hear more, even if it's something that isn't necessarily sort of subjectively to my liking. I'm curious to hear what he comes up with next. Do you know what I mean? It's just like this guy is doing interesting stuff, and that's what it's all about. So good, strong selection. I don't know anything about this. Is it Tommy? I don't know. I need to go and scope him, her, whoever that is, out and find out a bit more. I followed actually some I think it's just creatively entitled Japanese Garage. I don't know who it was curated by. I'll share the link with you. In fact, I'll share it on the In the Garage Twitter for anybody who's interested as well. But I followed it on Spotify, and I was just going through there, and there's some absolutely cracking stuff on there. Some brand new stuff, but also some stuff dating right back to like 1999. Plenty of stuff on there that I'd never heard of in my life, and I would hazard a guess that probably a lot of our listeners have never heard of, and that you probably never would listen to unless you're, presumably from that part of the world, because it's marketed to a different part of the world. But there's some really high quality stuff on there, and there's a lot of stuff on there produced by Shinichi Osawa, who's better known as Mondo Grosso in this part of the world. that's, obviously kind of more on the poppy side of things, but it's strong, high caliber productions, but two-step and really nicely done. And might be of interest. So I just thought I'd mention that. And there's a lot of good stuff around. So
maybe they can take it back. Maybe they can take it back from Spain, because I mean, Japan's obviously been out like a garage country for many, many years. But they've always had their own kind of take on it. So sometimes it may be a little bit too far over to the kind of anime realm for my liking all the time. But they've always got these bits that bubble through that are amazing. For
sure. They do this really cool blend of kind of, because if you've identified before, they do the kind of soulful jazzy kind of thing really well, but then they kind of mix it up with the 8-bit thing, and when you combine those two things, it works strangely well, doesn't it? It works better than it sounds on paper like it should.
Oh, I love a bit of 8-bit.
We've showcased a few tracks, haven't we? Like in recent months on the podcast, that are kind of jazz stroke 8-bit that don't sound on paper like they should work, and then you listen to them and you go, that's really cool. And the Japanese seem to do that really well. So
let's hope 2022 is the year for 8-bit jazz.
Well, in fact, do you know what? Let's get into the best of the rest, because I've got one to mention on there which sort of almost fills that criteria.
Looking forward to you pronouncing onwards. That one, mate. Cool. All right. So that was the top 3 showdown. We'll go into the best of the rest. So, mate, do you want to we'll go one for one line, 1 sentence description? You can go first. Go for it.
Me to you, back to me first. Cool. I would have started with this one actually, but we did give me an award last month, and I thought that was enough stroking my own ego for the time being. So first up, I've got Brendan Mills featuring Sharice Stanley with a track called Sweet Love, the Phonetix Jazz Step Mix, which is finally out on Riddler now. And if you haven't yet heard that yet, what are you doing? Go and get it now. RiddlerRecords.com. That's all I'm going to say.
So my first pick is the latest one on Nouveau from MPH, entitled Locked In. And I think it's another symptom of the pandemic and everyone being locked in their houses. I think that's where this one kind of comes from, but it's a nice bumpy 4/4 number in the true MPH style. Loving this one.
Next up, we've got Fuji Kazi with a track called Karari, the Narken remix, which is available on Universal Music. I hope I pronounced that all properly. It's a lovely, soulful, 2-step reworking of Fuji Kazi's track. It's just Japanese garage at its finest, as we were just talking about, and it's just nice.
So my next pick is another remix of a Selector track. This EP seems to have been remixed left, right and centre. Selector and Leanne Louise, Something About You. This time they've got the man from the US, Hans Glader, on the remix. And it's Glader, just everything. He pisses excellence, we know that right now. Check this one out. Big tune.
I've been a bit cheeky putting this one forward because it's technically not out until the end of the week, but I figure by the time this episode goes out, you guys will only have maybe 2 or 3 days to wait. So, if you just be patient, This one's by Howden. It's called Echoes, and it will be available on the 24-hour Garage Girls UKG compilation 2022. It's another slice of Lost Era style 4/4 bumpy goodness.
Next one, great to see this guy out to a strong start. Tuff Culture dropping his latest track, Reality, and he's definitely taken it in a little bit of a different direction to his usual gear. He's still got that distinct Tuff Culture sound, but this one's a bit darker and a bit steppy. Check it out.
Super creative, that one. Really creative, isn't it? Next up, guy we featured a couple of months back, Claybrook. He's back, this time with a stepper. Super soulful, jazzy vibes with a track called Kickback, which is available now via Ditto Music.
My next pick is a bit of a darker one out on South Point right now. It's Kidda featuring M-Ro with a tune called Tonight. And yeah, just a bit of a dark step.
Next up, my second pick from Garage Shared's 2022 EP, not 2022 EP, showcase of
Ones to watch.
help me out here, what's the EP? Ones to watch, beg your pardon, there you go. Good job one of us is paying attention. This one, we get there in the end, my friend. This one, Get Up by Laura Alice, is another slice of bumpy 4/4 goodness. Feel good vibes.
My next pick is an act by the names going of Ilan Bluestone and Mayor Levi, featuring the vocals of Alex Clare. And this tune's called Hold On, and we're listening right now to the Selector remix. I think Alex Clare was the vocalist on that Too Close tune that ended up on a Microsoft advert somewhere. Yeah, big tune, bumpy 4/4 vibes, check it out.
I've got next up my remix, the Phonetix remix of Steppin' by BWK Project. I know you pinpointed the original one last month. I've bided my time and waited to coincide with the release this month on Downplay out at the end of this week. It's a retro slice of two-step. Go check it.
Conductor's back with his Kiwi imprint. He puts out his Kiwi boosted remix EPs. This one, he's getting a remix of his own track Time featuring Jay Gray. We've got Sammy Virji bringing the 4/4 bassy vibes over this one. Large tune, check it out.
My last pick is the Vital Techniques remix of Desperate Need by Phone Vibes, which is available now on Second to None Music. Just a nice blend of sounds. It's kind of got some soulful elements, some bass heavy bits, skips along nicely. Slickly produced as always, typical Vital Techniques style.
Really like both mixes on that one, but Vital Techniques definitely brought the fire a little bit more. Yeah, nice release, definitely. My last shout is some more of my kind of emo-y, hipstery garage. I'm going to put it down to. This is an act called Stay Loose featuring Andrew Paley. The tune's called Cold Comfort, and there's a remix by Arcane on there. And yeah, it's a bit kind of emo-y. That's all I can say. It's a bit hipstery, and yeah, I like the sounds on it. It's got that 8-bit tinge to it, and a vocal that appeals to my ears. Just check it out.
It's called comfort.
We made it through.
Loads of 8-bit goodness today and 8-bit discussion, isn't there? You noticed that? I don't know. Maybe it's the year of 2022, the year of 8-bit. I don't know.
I mean,
we're seeing a resurgence of 8-bit.
I was really into like pushing towards the 8-bits when I was like, I say producing music. When I was sitting in the studio with my mate when we was putting out tunes as Orpheus, we was loving the kind of 8-bitty sounds there, and we were sampling anime and putting that into our tracks, and it was kind of, I think a lot of it, when I hear that the 8-bit vibes there, it takes me back to kind of that when we was making that music. It's been 10 years ago we was doing it now. So I kind of instantly link to it. But then when it's like a kind of modern spin on it, I always connect with it straight away, should I say. But from the modern, should we go back to days of yonder, to yesteryear? So we regularly journey back into what we passionately call the forgotten years. What pick have you got from the forgotten years to talk about this time around, bro?
Mate, I'm taking us way back. But bearing in mind we are now 2022, right? This one is 18 years old.
Holy shit, I'm old.
It's no wonder we're both sitting here yawning. I was just sitting here thinking to myself, I'm so tired. Like, and I apologise for tripping myself up in that last segment and forgetting my name and where I am because, obviously I'm older than I realised. But yeah, this one, 2004, came out on a white label, sold by the truckload, was by a guy called Lee Rees, who came and went fairly quickly, but delivered this before he went. Very good track called I Remember. Holds a lot of nostalgic value for me and some nice memories, having some good times. I love it. It's just a sort of nice, feel-good, bumpy 4/4 number, which seems to be my vibe of the day. I seem to be saying bumpy 4/4, feel-good vibes over and over, don't I?
Shall we get it on? Let's get it on.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
The 4/4 stomper. I remember.
Do you remember it?
I do. Say, this is one vinyl I never owned, and this was the. I think I spoke about it before. This is one of the. I stole this tune from Direct Connect. I think. DC++. Yeah, but I never had it on vinyl.
Blasphemy. I remember buying. I didn't own the vinyl. I bought the MP3. I can't remember which store. I was trying to say to you, I try to remember the name of the store, but it was so long ago. It no longer exists, and I no longer remember what it was called. But yeah, interesting story about this track, because I remember speaking to Lee about it back in the day, and it was. I'm just going to take my earpiece out. Funny myself think. Bloody earbuds piping the sound. It was supposed to be signed for. Do you remember the Pure Garage Main Room Sessions CD? It was a contract came through for Lee for that. Now I don't know where that vocal was taken from, but it's obviously sampled from somewhere. I don't know, someone with an astute ear amongst our listeners, I'm sure will be able to tell us where it's been pinched from, but it's obviously been sampled from somewhere. Quite creatively spliced and pitched up or down or whatever, and arranged quite nicely. He's done quite a good job creating a nice backing for it there. It's all been done very, very, very nicely. But basically, he had a contract come through, and they were prepared. Warner Music was prepared to do the sample clearance to get the rights, so that track could all be officially done, used on Pure Garage. And Lee was living with a guy at the time who I don't know the full ins and outs of the story. I don't wish to create a war, but for whatever reason didn't tell him that the paperwork had come through for it. Lee was obviously away or whatever, didn't get the paperwork, didn't return the paperwork, and hence it never came out on that CD as it was supposed to. And so the release just died a death with the vinyl release. Fortunately for Lee, obviously, it sold a fair few copies on vinyl before that happened. So I think he made a few quid from it nonetheless. But a bit of a shame because, I mean, in retrospect, when you listen to it, it's a really strong track which potentially had had scope to do a lot more damage and go a lot further than it arguably did, because it was a real sort of underground success. I think it's probably fair to say during the early portion of that Lost Years segment, a time when it sold a larger number than later Lost Years records did. Alas, such is the way the cookie sometimes crumbles. And I think you and I briefly sort of touched on this before we kind of came on air, didn't we? And we were discussing the potential of Lee, and I think you can hear that the guy definitely had skills when you just even the way that the vocals been chopped and arranged there, the organs, the way that he's compressed and mixed things down, because he was a young guy when he produced that track. Would hazard a guess he's probably a similar age to us, right? So we're going back to 2004 then. What was he, 20 tops, something like that. To produce something that technically sharp at that age with that little direction, had Lee sort of stuck around, had he been given the guidance, who knows what he potentially would have been making by this point. It's a shame. It's a shame that release, that feature on the main room sessions didn't come off, that a boatload of money didn't come his way, that he didn't have the incentive to kind of keep going, and that sort of natural skill and propensity to kind of create those bangers wasn't kind of nurtured and developed. But there you go. I enjoyed that one nonetheless.
It came out kind of that 2004, like you're saying, it sold like quite a few units then. That was because that was the year when garage kind of started dying a death as grime started splitting. Like the kind of standard garage sound was break step was kind of going away and then going more into grime. And then when the Lost Years re-emerged with the newer kind of 4/4 and more warmer sounds that were missing from it around 2003 and then the start of 2004, that's when kind of all these more, I don't say immature artists, but these newer artists were coming through and putting vinyls out, because that's all there kind of was. And it was allowing them to shift these units. And that definitely was picked up in that era. And because Lee was prolific on the Uptown forums as Trancey Boy, from what I remember. So a lot of people kind of knew him within the scene.
I forgot about that.
His name was Trancey Boy.
Trancey Boy alias. I forgot.
I always think, just for seeing Lee Rees, it's just instantly Trancey Boy. Why was he into trance? That's all I think. But yeah, so like, and I mean, there was so many. Like that was when Scott Tonic first dropped his EP in those kind of years. There was the Mad Hatters EP that came out. And then obviously all the early solo stuff were all unknown artists at those points. So they were, it really was kind of an opportunity to break through, because you couldn't just go, as you can now, go onto an MP3 store and buy anything. Like you literally still had to go to a record shop if you wanted your garage, and listen through all those vinyls. So it really kind of was a prime time to hit a niche audience that had its listeners, and would allow you to kind of shift those units. So, I mean, I wish. Go on.
I was going to say, I think that time, what you were just saying, it ensured. I don't want to sound negative or slate anyone, but I think it ensured a higher level of quality control, because to be in a position like Lee, as best I know, Lee self-funded that release and did it himself, right? So in order to jump through the hoops and commit to pressing up 500 vinyls, I believe he did a fair more number than that. I don't know if he started with 500. Reaped in the benefits of the 500, got more pressed up. But in order to do the 500, you needed to front up the money to do that. You needed to be assured, you needed to be confident in yourself that you had a really strong release from the get-go. Whereas there's no longer that need, is there, in the digital era? You could, I mean, and I don't want to accuse anyone of doing it. Anybody can just produce any heap of shit and just go, fuck it, I'll put it out there. And I feel unfortunately that does happen, and that's why every DJ is wading through a myriad of shit to find the good stuff. Back in those days that wasn't happening, and the releases weren't so abundant, but the releases that were there. I'm sure there were shit releases. I'm not saying there weren't shit releases, but I think there was probably an element of people really having more of a self-belief in their releases. And when they were putting something out, really going, oh, fucking hell, I've had to pump 800 quid to get this release into the shops. I've had to drive 400 or 500 miles around the country to get it into all the record shops. I'm sure as shit gonna absolutely fucking hammer the promotion on every forum. I'm going to go on MySpace. I'm going to email everyone I can. I'm going to get on MSN. I'm going to plug the shit out of it. And that doesn't happen so much these days. Sorry, I'm waffling. I'll let you carry on.
No, you're not waffling at all, mate. No, waffling at all. I was smiling when you mentioned MySpace for sure. It's way back in the day.
Showing my age there, mate.
God, do you remember there was on MySpace there was this DJ Heavy Grinder was the woman that had all of the links. She was on everyone's profile. She was like
Heavy Grinder. That does ring a bell. That does ring a bell.
She was just like a good looking female DJ, but there wasn't many female DJs back then, and she just ended up linked. It was like OG Instagram thought, like MySpace styley. Oh yeah, way back. Nothing to do with garage at all then. That was just, for some reason that's instantly what came to mind there. Yeah, it was just I wish I'd picked up a copy now. I remember I didn't at the time because for whatever reason something irked me about it. I don't know whether it's just that synth sound still grinds on me a bit when I hear it, but you know, it's still a nice tune. And I wish I own it. There's a bit of garage history there that I've missed out on. And it does kind of give me the memories of the good old Uptown Forum days, which we talk about often when we come up with the forgotten years. So yeah, nice pick. And I managed to avoid talking about the Bog Roll video. Let's move on.
Don't get started. Crack on with the next one.
So the reason I put to the next one is also another tune that I never owned on vinyl. The reason I picked it is because it's a good opportunity to talk about R&G. And it gives me very good memories of a particular mix CD that did the rounds when this came out. And I'm sure, hopefully you'll remember which one I'm talking about as soon as I play it. So the tune I'm going for was one of the lead vocalists of the R&G movement, which was rhythm and grime, if you don't know that, back then, which was Gemma Fox. This tune is called Gone, and it's Davinche on the remix.
Oh, and it's cool. Oh, Davinche, Paper Chase, Two-Face the Pharaoh, Essentials. Right, and it's cool. The Pharaoh, stash king, ding-a-ling, make them sing high notes. Sex no more, she don't wanna flex no more. Oi, Gemma the Fox. Right.
Get up on my face, telling me what to wear, where to go. It's so no, we ain't even gotta go there. You're hounding me, but you're surrounding me, telling me how I should be. Ain't supporting this around here. You think you're Tony Soprano with your rules, so you better let go. Cause I ain't feeling the culture feeling. Ain't no love, no. You better back off. So you think you got control of me, owning me, without you even knowing me. But I don't like the things you're showing me, so it's time you moved on. I'm not done with the aggressiveness, stressing this, not done with the possessiveness. But I'm sick of you depressing this, so goodbye, you're gone.
Right, so first question is, which mix CD am I going on about?
I cannot remember. Go on.
You cannot remember? Rossi B and Luca, More to the Floor, Volume 2.
Oh, of course it was.
When it drops in, and they had a special of that tune playing on it.
They did. And I had Volume 2, I remember that, yeah.
I mean, More to the Floor, Volume 2 is one of the greatest mix CDs of all time. It was so well done. And yeah, that just this tune. It was that mix CD that made me fall in love with this tune. And obviously Davinche was doing so many bits back then with the rhythm and grime movement. So as I was saying earlier, it's like you had that split of grime splitting out off into its own thing, and kind of leaving the rest of garage behind. I mean, that probably started with Wiley Eskimo is the tune that I would say is the first one that started to proper splinter into its own kind of thing. But then R&G came out, which was like grime, but then they was trying to make it a bit more musical with vocals, and then that started to kind of bleed back into the other side. And yeah, this was just Davinche was obviously one of the guys that was doing that R&G stuff, and this featured Essentials, which was like a South London MC crew at the time. There wasn't a lot of people repping South at the time, so it was good to see them out on the track. And yeah, I think the main thing is just the memories of that More to the Floor Volume 2. And if you've never heard that mix CD, do yourself a favour, go and find it on SoundCloud or wherever it is, and just enjoy the itchy scratchiness of Luca and Mr. Rossi B's solid mixing, because it is such a classic mix. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about R&G.
I don't know if they're still available. Are they, the More to the Floors? I've definitely still got them all with Rossi B and Luca's permission.
They've got to be out there, mate. They've got to be out there.
They've got to be still available, haven't they? Yeah. No, they were great. They were great. I must offer my apologies to Davinche, because I know when you said before we started the episode, you said to me, I'm going to go with this one, and I went, oh yeah, I never really rated Davinche, and upon listening back to that, do you know what? Like, it's decent. And I think sometimes, upon reflection, you kind of appreciate an artist a bit more than you did at the time, don't you? You know, maybe at the time when I was a bit younger, I just didn't appreciate the creativity that was there with that. But yeah, now reflecting on that, I do like that. And yeah, it does bring back fond memories of those More to the Floor CDs for sure. I couldn't identify it, but I definitely will be listening to those later tonight when we go off air and cracking those out while I have a drink for sure. R&G, I made a couple of R&G bits myself actually. I did dig the vibe. I didn't do them as well as Davinche, I have to say, but it was a cool blend of different styles, and I'm all for kind of fusing different bits and pieces. And that was always my one qualm with those kind of early grime tracks, was that they weren't musical enough. So when you got those guys came along and they were kind of trying to kind of infuse like a little bit of a more kind of soulful musical element in it, I was all for that. And I really liked the more polished stuff, which I know didn't really take too well, because I think it was almost at odds with what grime was about. Do you know what I mean? I really liked the Scandalous stuff. There was some Carly. I know when you said you wanted to do like an R&G pick, and I said about the Carly Bond one that Scandalous produced. I think it was called My Life. That was the one that stood out for me, but it was just, I almost feel like it was too well produced. Do you know what I mean? But like, for me, as a nerdy boffin producer, that's the one that sticks out because it was so well produced. I loved that. I loved the kind of the fusion of grimy elements with the really kind of slick, polished bits as well. Yeah, it's all good. It's probably not something I would kind of, I don't know. It's not something I would almost put under the garage umbrella though.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean? It's not something I think I would ever kind of factor into a garage set, even if I was getting a bit darker. I think if I was going to go, if I was going to kind of play a set and then I was going to go and kind of go, oh yeah, like reading the crowd, looks like we need something a bit dirtier, I would go all out dirt. I might drop in Eskimo if it looked like Eskimo was appropriate. I don't think I would necessarily go, oh yeah, like I'll drop in some R&G. I don't think it would necessarily occur to me. Do you know what I mean? And I know that even when I've seen EZ I saw EZ do a like a garage. In fact, it was one of the best sets I've ever seen EZ do. He did a set at I'm trying to think what the club was called. It might have been at the end. I think it was at the end. I think it was a Shogun audio night. We're going back some years now. And he was in the second room. This is back when EZ used to do clubs and when he wasn't, only doing festivals. And he did I think it was like a 2-hour set. And he started off like way back in the mid-90s. And then as the set went on, he just basically did like year by year. It was like a chronological set. It was fucking mental. I've never seen him do a set like it, but I fucking loved it. So he worked his way through. So obviously he started with all the old kind of retro 4/4. As he went through, got into some 2-step. Then he kind of started moving into grime. And I don't recall him doing a lot of the R&G stuff. I think he kind of bypassed it. He kind of went into Eskimo, obviously did all of your bongo and your war, your musical mob and your Johnny Cash and all of that kind of stuff. I don't remember there being a whole lot of Davinche in there though. I don't know if that kind of stuff is almost of its time and left in its time. It's almost the forgotten years of grime.
Oh, does that make
sense?
It never really blew. It never really blew. And it is, that's why I thought it was just a great thing to talk about, because it was like, it was being pushed as R&G was this new kind of vocal way to get grime into the masses, but the masses weren't interested.
Yeah. I seem to recall Cameo really trying to hype it in a big way on his One Extra show. He was really like, R&G, like he was really shouting about it, wasn't he? And it obviously just never took. And I think that is because, like you're talking, like with grime, you're talking about, it's almost in trying to, like, I admire it. I admire the ingenuity and the business savvy of trying to do that and trying to go, look, we can get this sound and we can take it off in this direction. But it's almost like trying to sell meat to a vegetarian, isn't it? It's like it's like going to a real die-hard hip-hop fan and then going, oh, I've got this Mary J. Blige track that's produced by Dr. Dre, and them going, well, yeah, but it's not a hip-hop track. Do you know what I mean? Which is essentially what happened at the turn of the century, like in the US, isn't it? It's a similar kind of thing, and I think that's basically what happened. It was just a bit of a mishmash that didn't quite gel, which is a shame, because I think, yeah, potentially it would have really, had it taken, it would have created some really cool fusions. And I don't know, maybe it's something that comes back. You know, Grime's really kind of transitioned into something a little bit different now. You know, like it's sort of barely recognisable, isn't it? You know, Grime compared to what it was even 5 years ago. Grime is so, like, it's just ever changing. It never ceases to amaze me where Grime stemmed from, what it has become, probably what it will become down the line.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Well, it never found its time. But Rossi B and Luca managed to make it sound amazing. So again, check out More to the Floor Volume 2.
Absolutely.
Shall we step in to our gassing topic for this month?
Gassing, yes. Have we decided what we're going to gas about? Are we going to start? Well, we're going to talk about track lengths. This is another hot potato, isn't it? we do like to discuss the hot topics. But it's one of those ones as well, isn't it? And I know we've kind of touched on it in the past, because obviously it crops up. It rears its ugly head, as it were, on social media. And I see certain DJs, I'm talking about you, DJ Big Man, on social media frequently, posting, moaning, I should say, about track lengths or the lack thereof. And obviously, I don't think it even necessarily applies to garage specifically, but obviously in the context of what we're discussing in this podcast, we are looking particularly at garage. And yes, it's probably fair to say there are a lot of shorter tracks around these days. And obviously there are reasons for that. And obviously those reasons annoy DJs. It's probably best to hand over to you for a minute, actually, because I know, obviously, I'm now doing my radio show, so perhaps it's going to start annoying me now more than it has done in the past, because I know we've kind of talked about it in the past, and I've always just kind of gone, I don't really give a shit these days because I don't really DJ so much. But now I'm playing on Trickstar, aren't I? So now I'm going to start going, I wish I'd done an extended mix. I know whenever Higgo does a track, you're always just like, where's the extended mix?
I mean, well, I suppose when you're DJing, the main part of it, when you're doing the sort of DJing that I do, which, you know, classic kind of a vinyl DJ for dance music, you're mixing the intro of a song into the outro of an old song. You know, older songs would be even longer than what a song might be nowadays, with like a huge 1.5-minute, 2-minute intro of just like beats and build up. And then the outro would then be similar, so you could layer it back out the other way. I think a lot of that as well was not just symptomatic of the need to mix because you wanted that length of time, but probably because on vinyl it wasn't always as easy as it is now. Like now you can just, you know, everyone moans about the sync button on CDJs, but you know that every single person that now digital DJs is looking at the BPM counter when they're mixing. So, you know, it's the same as sync, apart from the fact that you're saying when to press start. It really irks me when people moan about sync because of that. But I think because you've now can lock a mix without even really thinking about it, like you can trust your equipment, there's no need for you to spend all of that time kind of queuing it up. So I think that was kind of the first change in trend. But yeah, I mean, for me to layer another tune in and there's no kind of intro to work with, it can be very difficult sometimes. I mean, I've found myself having like, you know, eight beats to work with, and I have to kind of just put that on loop and mix it in with effects to be able to go from one tune to another and really kind of stretch it out as long as I can just with those 8 beats. And I understand. It never really occurred to me why tunes have changed that way to be kind of shorter in length and go straight into the kind of drop, until I heard you kind of talk about it once, where it's like, you know, it's totally the attention deficit nature of today, where everyone's streaming everything or they're looking online for stuff, and you've literally got to get their attention straight away. You know, people are not going to sit there and listen to 2 minutes of a beat intro and wait for the tune to drop. Like, you know, they need to have it thrown straight in their face, and then there's literally seconds for them to make a decision whether they're into this. And when I listen to music, and selecting it for my radio show, I'm pretty much trying to do that myself the same way. I'll put the pointer in the middle of the tune and find the drop, and then I'll know that after the drop is kind of around the drop time is what I want to judge it on. So I get that, and I think a lot of that kind of shortening has just manufactured it so the drop is instant rather than big build up.
For sure. I mean, if you're a DJ and you've never sort of dealt with labels, the first thing a label will do when you submit a tune to them, if they want to sign it, is go, like, assume that you give them the extended mix first. The first thing they will do is come back to you going, can we have a Spotify edit? That's the first thing any label will do to you now. They will want a 2.5 to 3 minutes tops edit of it, and they will run with that as like the main version of the track, with the extended mix as the one that the DJs buy. So, I mean, as you say, it goes back to the attention deficit thing. And obviously we've touched on this in the past, but just for the benefit of anybody who missed the first time we touched on it, in essence, right, 95% of music, I would hazard the figure has probably gone up since we talked about it the first time. The vast majority of music is consumed via streaming services these days, right? Which means the vast majority of music it needs to be tailored towards that market. In order to obtain a stream, you need to maintain someone's attention for at least 30 seconds, because if someone skips your track within that first 30 seconds, that listen doesn't count as a stream, and therefore the artist, the label, doesn't get paid for that stream. So, of course, as the artist, you want to keep that person's attention for the first 30 seconds. Now, as you've correctly identified there, Greg, you don't want somebody to listen to 30 seconds of drums and go, fuck this, and skip it, because that would defeat the object of what you're trying to achieve. So you need to get straight into the gubbins of the music. It would be that with either something a bit more creative than drums, or be that just skipping the intro altogether, dropping in something kind of musical, something to kind of capture the attention. I think the thing for me, and what I always try and do with my tracks, is I always try and start with something. Even I'll have an intro generally that is workable in some context for DJs, but I'll always start with some kind of musical element or something that's just a bit more interesting and creative than drums, just that kind of grips people's attention, something that you can just kind of listen to as the listener, as somebody who isn't a DJ, and then kind of work from there. But what I think what I'm struggling to get my head around with a lot of these guys that are producing 2.5 minute tracks is why, and I think this is the frustration of people like DJ Big Man, who I see posting about this stuff on social media, and like yourself, who are understandably get frustrated about it as well, is why people aren't doing a version for Spotify plus an extended mix, because there's a lot of people who are just doing the edit for Spotify and that's it. Because it really doesn't take, if you've got the main body of the track done, what I've started doing with my tracks now, and I don't know if I'm being lazy and doing it this way. I mean, it just seems the logical way to me to do it. I now have kind of started working backwards. What I used to do was start with the extended mix and then trim it down for Spotify. So I had 2 versions. I start with a Spotify mix. So I start with a track and I aim to make it about 3 minutes. And then I just build an intro and outro onto it afterwards. Right. So I can kind of start with a version that I know is going to be perfect for Spotify and then just lump the intro and outro onto it. I don't understand that barely takes me any work to do. And whichever way around you do that, whether you start with the short version or the long version, it's peanuts work, when you're talking about it in the grand scheme of things. I don't understand why people aren't doing 2 versions. Almost every release I'm doing now, I put out, particularly the ones I'm self-distributing and self-releasing, I run sort of 5 or 6 different labels now. Outside of Riddler, I run some other ones which people don't necessarily know about me, and through various different platforms and aliases for different genres and whatnot. I would usually do a Spotify edit as the main mix and then an extended mix. What I tend to do on Spotify and the streaming services, Deezer, Tidal and that, I will have the shorter version, so just the shorter version. And then when I release them, when I distribute them, I distribute 2 versions. So one version is just the shorter version, goes off to the streaming services. Another version, which is the shorter version plus the extended mix, goes off to all the download sites, Beatport, Juno, Traxsource, etc. So that DJs like yourself, so that DJs like Big Man, so that DJs like the other people I've seen moan about it on social media, when they go on there, they have the option. because there are other DJs I see that don't necessarily moan about it on social media, who do actually want to buy the shorter version because they DJ, but they don't DJ in the same way as you, so they don't necessarily mix. They have shows where they are just literally looking to go through. They don't mix back to back. They're literally kind of dropping tunes, and then they're a different kind of DJ. And I know certain shows, and even shows like BBC Introducing, they don't want you to upload extended mixes of tracks. They want the edit because they don't have the time to sit there and go through 5-6 minute tracks. They just want basically bite-sized things to get straight into it for their listeners, because their listeners, don't want all of the gubbins. So you need the options there. So I like to offer the options for the download sites, but it isn't hard to do that. So that's the bit that I struggled to get my head around. It's quite easy to cater for both parties. I'm kind of waffling. I think it's good for people to have insight into why artists are doing it, why tunes have got shorter, and I think we've kind of covered that in terms of the streaming and how that affects things. Equally, I think it's good for artists to kind of have the insight of the fact that actually DJs, I don't know, perhaps some of the artists coming through that are producing these really short tracks, have they maybe not DJ'd themselves? Have they not contemplated the fact that it's really difficult to mix with a track that's got zero intro in it? Because, as I say, it's not really bothered me in recent years, because I stopped playing out, a fair while ago now, and I'm more of a listener really than I am a DJ. So it's kind of something I've shrugged my shoulders at over the years. But even nonetheless, even when I haven't been DJing, like my tunes, I stopped doing drum intros quite some time ago on my tracks for different reasons. Actually, the reason, and I've had some moans about it, and we touched on this in a recent episode of the podcast, where I mentioned that actually I'm doing a deluxe version of Jazz Stuff FM, which is out next month, where I am doing drum intros on all of those tracks. But I actually stopped doing drum intros on my tracks several years back because did I touch on this? I was going to say I sent a promo out and my drum track got ripped for an official mix. Did I talk about that?
I don't know if you did.
I don't know if I touched on that. I sent a promo out several years back to an artist bigger than myself, who just basically nicked the drum track off of my promo, used it on an official remix they did that they got paid quite handsomely for, and then their official remix came out using my drums before my track that I'd promoted them came out. So then when my track came out, it looked like I'd rinsed their drum track, and it thoroughly pissed me off, just on principle, because it looked like I'd rinsed them when actually it was to the opposite. Obviously, I'm not going to go naming names, but needless to say, that person didn't ever get any promos from me again, and it made me second guess doing drum intros. So if you're wondering why I don't have sort of solo drum intros on my tracks anymore, that's part of the reason why. Also because, as we touched on the last episode, I think, was it More Than a Phase that had said it's just a fucking boring way to start a track? And I know we talked about the old Todd Edwards track, didn't we? And it's true, it's just a really uninspiring, uncreative way to just have 32, 64 bars of nothing but drums. It's just a bit dry.
You definitely need something in there to keep you interested. I mean, I was talking before about having something to chop in on the mix is always nice. Having little sounds and cutouts and things you can bring in. And yeah, just plain drums can be boring, but it's still. I still think it's just having that watered down version. It does. It helps. It helps you to mix. I think for you as well. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I know that obviously you're very musical, and for you to hear key clashes in tune, I've noticed that when you mix, you wait until there's as little as possible going on in the tune, so you can bring the next one in. And I always assume that's because you didn't want the keys to clash on the tunes.
Yeah. Key. I mean, that's a different. Do you know what? Key clashes in music. I'm going to write a note down for myself now, because that's something that we need to have as a gassing discussion at some point. That's an entirely different gassing discussion for another episode, because key clashing in music in general is just unforgivable. It's a sin. But for sure, key clashing in mixing, if I can avoid it, I do, because to my musical ear, it makes me want to just put a paper bag over my head and just lock myself away.
I mean, that's what they used to say. That's why they used to say Tiesto because Tiesto is obviously nothing to do with garage, but he would fill arenas and large kind of music venues of just doing of him mixing other people's tunes, and this was like, you know, it was on vinyl, and it was when everyone could DJ, but for some reason Tiesto was doing it to a level of like a large pop artist. He was mixing in front of people doing that. And the thing that they said that he used to do really well is like key matching and getting the tunes to go together like perfectly from that kind of perspective. And it's something as me, because I'm a musical idiot and not really a musician. It's never been super duper something I've been conscious of over the years. So I know I've definitely been guilty of some key clashy mixes, and I do my best to drop out frequencies to avoid some of the parts so that it doesn't grate on the ears too much. But I can hear when it's going wrong. But you know, I think there's more of a chance of that happening if it's pure music when it starts. You've got no opportunity to kind of transition from one to the other. You're kind of taking yourself away from that there, and that's one of the first things that comes to mind. Because I know if a tune's starting with no beats and just like a pad and a vocal, my options for mixing that in is very, very kind of low. I have to wait till there's no vocal on the current track playing, minimal music effects, so that the music effects from the new track that comes in has to come in. There's lots of things that I have to consider to make that mix work. And that's kind of, I guess that's going through my head consciously, and that's probably why these other people complain the same sort of level. And it will just
makes total sense. It's a minefield. It's a minefield for you as a DJ. It's a minefield for the artist. I know it's something I've given a lot of thought to, like in preparing the deluxe version of Jazz Tuff FM, because I'm like, well, how do I go about it? And what I've essentially ended up doing, I've kind of almost bitten the bullet and gone against my principles, because like I said in the last episode, one of the things that a few people had said to me was like, oh, I love these tunes, but like some of them are quite difficult to mix with. And I was just like, well, how can I make them easier to mix with? And essentially what I ended up doing was what I just described to you, basically loading up the project files, sticking some drums at the start and the end of them. Obviously, it's like a little bit more in depth than that. I tried to get a bit more creative than just that. A few filters and some rises and just something like of a little bit more interest. So it's not just that bland. But that's essentially what it is, just so you've got like a little bit of time to have a little bit of a lead in before anything musical comes in there. I think you can kind of, as an artist, from an artist's perspective, it is perhaps you need to be selective in terms of what instruments you're using if you are going to use musical elements in there, because certain instruments you use don't clash like other ones do. So if you have some keys or some really elaborate pads come in, those are going to clash a lot more than if you're using like a picked or muted guitar or something. Do you know what I mean? Something with a much shorter decay. So perhaps that's something for artists to contemplate. I don't know. I mean, ultimately, it's just a minefield in general. I go back to what I said before about, you know, I think you just need two versions of every track, and maybe the way to approach two versions of every track is to have one that is specifically for streaming services where you don't give a shit or a second thought for the DJs, and then the other one is specifically start with drums and then have 32 bars of drums and then have the musical elements of coming in. And I mean, I know that's certainly what I'm looking to do.
I mean, I don't think it's a radical idea. I mean, tunes have had radio edits for as far back as I can remember. It's just, I think the new wave of so many people self-publishing, it's fallen out of habit. And people, I think they just don't understand to do something professionally. Maybe you should consider having, or maybe they feel like that they're not going to hit a radio play, so they don't need to worry about it. But then nowadays, Spotify is radio play almost to people, right? So
perhaps they aren't selling enough of those, perhaps they aren't selling enough extended mixes to warrant their time doing it. Perhaps that's what they're thinking. Because I know, to be honest, like looking at my sales figures, and maybe I'm just slating myself here saying this, but looking at the sales figures on the download sites, maybe they're looking at them and going, it's not worth the effort. Maybe they're looking at them going, it's so heavily weighted in favour of streaming services. I will just tailor it towards the streaming services because about 10 people are going to buy the track. So why am I going to bother worrying about tailoring it for the 10 people that are going? Perhaps that's the thinking. I don't know. I'm speculating there and saying that. I guess it depends who you are. It depends how many you're selling, how big your following is, and that. There are certainly artists who are selling a lot more than that. But I would wager that actually it would be interesting. It would be interesting if we could have, maybe we need to do like a Typeform type scenario or something where we just get people to submit their sales statistics or something via our Instagram page. I'd love to see like a cross section of who's doing what in Garage, just to kind of gauge it and see how it compares against what I'm looking at, because it's a really fucking sorry state of affairs out there. That's all I say from my perspective. In the grander scheme of things, certainly compared to what it used to be. Maybe that's having an impact on why people are not bothering to do extended mixes and whatnot.
Well, hopefully we've got some producers that are listening that can give us their feedback onto their approach and how they feel about this whole discussion themselves.
It would be interesting for sure to hear some different perspectives.
Definitely. Yeah, if you want to hit us, make sure you drop us an old school email. Feedback at intheukgarage.com is the address. If you're more modern, you can drop us an IG at intheukgarage, or slide into our Twitter DMs with dick pics or other messages.
Well, Twitter and YouTube seems to be the way to go. I was going to say feedback section's up next, isn't it? And it's all Twitter and YouTube mostly.
Yeah.
Do you want to jump into that? Do you want to read some of that?
I mean, I was trying to very smoothly segue into it there, Rob. I don't know if you noticed. Yeah, I mean, let's jump in. I mean, yeah, you do you want to read them out? Because I think you do a better job than me normally.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I do try. Well, if anybody's following us on Twitter, they would have seen actually that we reposted it from our Twitter account last time, because Strictly Flavour did a sort of series of tweets in response to the last show and raised some very interesting points. But for the benefit of anybody who didn't see it, I'll read out those tweets. So Strictly Flavour says, great show as always. Really enjoyed hearing your thoughts on what's been an amazing year for UK Garage. Shouts to Night Bass for Pippin as the best label, well deserved. As a discussion point, I thought it was interesting about the amount of releases leading to another lost year era. Beg your pardon. I'm not American. I used to have a similar viewpoint. However, having stood back and looked at underground music as a whole, I think Garage now finds itself in the same position as drum and bass, house and other genres, where there are non-stop high-caliber releases. This should hopefully lead to more exciting, interesting and creative DJ sets, with DJs having a greater selection of new releases to pick from. It will also probably lead to scenes within the scene, TM. I've added the TM in there for BrainZ's benefit. As certain DJs lean towards certain sounds and producers as certain DJs lean towards certain sounds and producers. Full stop. Anyone can be part of Garage these days, and the cliques which once controlled the scene no longer have any relevance or influence. The walls have been broken down. Garage has leveled up, and it's not going to stop.
I mean, it's a fair point about the kind of subgenres and the new crews that are breaking out. I mean, things like Kiwi's got a great brand going, right? And they've done club nights where they're kind of crafting their own kind of Kiwi sound. And I can see you can hear the natural subgenres that are emerging within Garage. So I completely feel what you're saying there. Yeah, and yeah, sorry for not giving you best label. Strictly Flavour. I feel a bit bad for it now, but this, yeah.
I think reading between the lines, he understands and says, it was well deserved. I think we went over that last month.
Yeah, completely. He said about the high caliber releases. When I was listening back to the award show, which is what this is in relation to. If you haven't listened to our award show, please check out the Xmas special. We need to count the number of times we said high caliber, because I reckon it was probably about 50. And every time I heard it, it started to grate on me. Find a new phrase. Find a new phrase. But yeah, I mean, I completely in agreement with everything that he said. The Garage is amazing, and it's my favourite genre. And yeah, I mean, I think I've hinted on the fact that house definitely struggled with it for many, many years, with so much music coming out of it that you have to focus on a particular subgenre. Otherwise, you're forever trying to fish through everything, and you just drive yourself insane.
Yeah. I agree in large. I mean, the only thing I'm not entirely sure about, and I did voice this when I spoke to Strictly Flavour in person about it when I read this, was in terms of the clicks and people not having any sort of relevance or control. There definitely are people that do have influence and that can hold people back, and being in with certain people definitely does do you favours. That definitely still is a thing, albeit potentially to a smaller degree. There definitely is still some clickiness, and I do think having the right mates, knowing the right people, having the right people behind you definitely is still going to do you favours. I mean, he's not necessarily saying it does you no favours. I do see some people doing the rounds who don't get the credit they deserve still. Perhaps that changes in time as the walls continue to be broken down and things continue to change. But I think the comparison to drum and bass is quite apt. Actually, looking, I'm a long-term fan of drum and bass, and I don't think I'd necessarily made that direct correlation between the two until reading those series of tweets. But I kind of looked at it and gone, yeah, actually, do you know what? I think he's on the money there. It's quite a fair comparison to make, especially with the kind of comment about the scenes within the scene and DJs leaning towards different sounds. And I like the prospect of that. That's, yeah, like you said, you can see the emergence, can't you, of different sounds and stuff. And hopefully that frees things up and it kind of creates more scope for more opportunities for different people with their different sounds. Because if you're making a certain style that's not kind of necessarily breaking through on a grander scale, but actually there's a big DJ who's representing bass heavy whompers and they pick up on you and you go out to that kind of side of the scene, that could be a good look, couldn't it?
Yeah, completely. Well,
big things.
Well, thank you, Strictly Flavour, for listening back to the last show and dropping the comment on the Twitters.
Always loving the feedback. He's always good for a bit of feedback.
So we did get a lot on YouTube, right? So the next few were through on YouTube, and thank you to everyone that left.
I'll race through these. Shall I race
go
through
for it,
these?
mate. Go for it.
Go through them. Ultra G, quality again, lads. Love the top tracks listing from all the artists out there, showing how diverse, but also how much talent is out there. I'd forgotten one or two of them, as there's been so much released. Keep up the great work. And big up Ultra G, because he's just launched ukgarage.live. Recommend checking that out for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. Baker says, what an episode and an end to a mad year. Thanks so much for all your hard work putting this together. Well done to all the nominees and winners.
Another guy.
Big up yourself,
nominated
Baker.
him and he didn't win. But he starred in it.
Well, maybe he wins this year. We'll see. He's definitely off to a strong start. Housemaster politely complimented my antlers. Big up, sir. I can't remember who it was. Somebody slid into my DMs with a comment that simply said, "I've got those antlers at home," and I can't remember who it was. But big up.
No lie. Christmas Day, we had exactly the same antlers out playing the ring toss
you had
game.
The same ones.
Yeah.
Cats 2012 hit me up on Discord. Another great episode. Enjoyed the awards and totally agree with what you guys were saying afterwards in the gassing section. Big up yourself, sir. Merlin prompted me earlier via WhatsApp actually with a discussion point for a later gassing topic. He said, does the underground exclusive club do more harm than good to the music? He said he was sat in today waiting for one of these much hyped super special exclusive limited edition dub plates, in brackets, which aren't even real dub plates these days. He said, our DJs treated like mugs by labels that hold DJs at arm's length to make them feel so special that they have to hand over their hard-earned money to play their music. And I think it's a valid point, which I did say to him, well, we've got a lot to talk about, but certainly I think that's probably a valid point that needs discussing at some point. So definitely come back to that.
So is that in regards to the promos that are not promos on TrackSource vibes?
Merlin and I went back and forth. That did come up. That was being discussed. I think it goes deeper than that. I think we're talking about. Yeah, I think we're talking about a raft of things. But yes, that is one of the sort of sub brackets of that conversation piece. I know you obviously feel strongly about those promos, dub plates, exclusives. The words that get bandied about that appear to have little meaning other than give us more money for the same track, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel what he's saying there in terms of like being in exclusive clubs. I mean, I used to battle with it, or like wrestle with it a lot way back, where you see a lot of people getting promos, and they'll be playing all the tunes that are not out yet, and then obviously you'll instantly be jealous. I used to be jealous all the time of tunes I couldn't get my hands on. And you have to make those kind of connections and links to be able to get on those lists to get those tunes before they come out, and then it'll be about who to get the tunes early. And then some people will have promo lists that might only be quite exclusive to certain people because they don't want to give out the music to everyone because it'll can their sales. And it can become a bit of a kind of, right, who knows who to get which tunes first. And then people will have their own kind of sets of promo pools. And I guess kind of what he's saying about getting like held at arm's length sometimes doesn't make you feel special and whatnot. It can feel a bit shitty, and I think it also ties into what you were saying about with clicks and who's in control of the scene. Like it's all part of navigating music. Like it's a shitty business, regardless of what genre you're in. There's very few scenes, I think, where everyone holds each other up in unison in a kind of friendly way. You know, there might be pockets of it that happen at times, and then a lot of the times it falls apart just because it's not sustainable because someone wants to fuck someone else over and you know get further.
Yeah.
It's a dirty business. It really, really is.
Do you know what? You're spot on. The sad truth, you know, you like to think that people are inherently good, but the sad truth of it is that a lot of people are looking to dick each other over and get one step ahead, and that translates into music without doubt. And yeah, certainly if somebody can get one ahead, then they're going to, and that you know that definitely comes at a price, and certainly in terms of clicks and exclusives and all that. I mean, it harps back to what Strictly Flavour. I think we read out some feedback last month from Strictly Flavour. He made another good comment about when he was talking about promos and how I think he said something to the effect of he believed that all DJs should be rooting out their own music. That was part of the process of being a good DJ, right? And how actually he found sending promos out to be of very little benefit, and that actually there wasn't really anybody that was in a sort of leading position that everyone was looking towards. You know, ideally what you need in a scene like Garage, I feel, and this is my personal opinion, so, you know, you may well disagree, but you just need a sort of central focal DJ, don't you, that's leading the way. And I know we kind of touched on it last month. You need a central DJ that's leading the way, that gets the promos, and I think, you know, the buck just needs to stop there. Everybody else just goes and buys the tunes. Wouldn't that just make it, that would make it a whole lot easier for everybody else. That would make it easier for the labels. That would eliminate all the clickiness. That would eliminate those bad feelings for the DJs and the legwork for the labels. Wouldn't that?
It sounds utopian.
I know I'm being idealistic.
It sounds utopian.
I know.
Every single DJ would just be like, no, I'm that DJ. I want to be the guy that gets all the promos, not this prick.
Yeah.
Whatever he's playing, he can't mix, and he don't know what tunes he's picking. Fuck that guy. It's me.
Okay. But then if you said but it's very clear. It's very clear cut, isn't it? Who's the best DJ in Garage?
You think it's clear cut? I want to hear who you think it is.
Who's the best DJ? Who's the best DJ in Garage?
I'm guessing you're going to say EZ.
Yeah, it's hands down. No one touches EZ, do they? Like it's been EZ from the get go. Like has it not? Like if you're talking about technical proficiency, right, no one touches EZ.
Yeah, but he doesn't do the same thing he used to do. His position in the scene is not the same as it was 10, 20 years ago.
But if he was the only one getting the promos, he would be like his. Do you know what I mean? His position would have to be that position, wouldn't it? If we all made this unanimous pact now, if everyone just went right, EZ, look, if we all contacted him and went right, we've decided under instruction of Rob and BrainZ, we're all going to send you our promos. You are nominated representative. Right. Expand your weekly Nouveau show to 2 hours of only new upfront music. But
then what you get 2 hours of his lackeys and what they've listened to and what they've decided is the ones to play. And then it will be the ones of the people that have got the connections that are in with him are more likely to get played. And then you've got the same symptom. I get what you're saying.
I know, Greg. I'm being idealistic. I'm talking in an ideal world here. Ideal world. I did start by saying in an ideal world.
You did.
I don't know. It's just. I don't know. It's bullshit, isn't it? The whole like you're right in saying that it's navigating music on the whole, but it's just frustrating. I think it's frustrating. I find it frustrating as fuck to be somebody who like I consider myself. Like I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I consider myself pretty proficient at what I do. I find it far more frustrating and difficult than I feel it should be to get my shit heard and played by DJs. That's a really frustrating position for me to be in. And it's frustrating for me to hear the DJs at the other side are frustrated to not be getting promos because it means that obviously I'm sending promos to DJs that are ignoring them when there are DJs that I'm not sending promos to who would willingly play them. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a bit of a ridiculous, and that's not a criticism of those DJs. Do you know what I mean? I'd happily send promos to DJs that will play them. It's just the whole situation is just a bit shit, and it just it's just frustrating on the whole. It's frustrating for everyone, and it just seems kind of ridiculous. It's a shame we just can't eliminate that altogether. Is my point.
So going back to kind of the original discussion of about how it can be a bit. I mean, I think what Merlin's getting at is it can be a bit much on your mental health to see all this stuff going on. I think social media is a horrible amplifier of it. And I think you have to learn to switch off. I mean, I know that I've struggled with it over the years, and if you're going insane because of what you're seeing on Twitter and Instagram, do less Twitter and do less Instagram. And I know that's the way I kind of keep my brain in check, because I know that I would just, as soon as I start delving into that thing and I see what everyone else is up to, and I'm just like, oh, I need to be working harder. And some people might get inspired to work harder. I've got no more hours in the day to dedicate to this thing. I'm in the twilight of my, if you can call it, career, if it is one. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this for. But if you're going insane, dial down the social media. It's so much better for you. And that's just from my own personal experience. And just try to chill out. Just know that everyone's doing their own thing. Yeah. Everyone is trying to show their best self online, which is hardly ever real. And you just need to believe in what you do and do what you do to make yourself happy, and fuck everyone else. Just find what makes you happy and focus on that, and fuck everybody else. That can be my only advice to someone that may be struggling with this.
I think that's very good summary there. I mean, we said it time and again, haven't we, in terms of social media? I do the same. Log in, post my shit, and log out again. It does mean you do get shit from people who go, "Oh, you're not supporting my shit. You're not reposting this."
Someone straight up said we don't support other people, right? I think I see someone else just.
Yeah, we got some abuse, didn't we? You don't do this. You don't. Well, we've literally said on the podcast, and we've justified that we don't like using. We've both literally said this, haven't we? It's
I would love
personal.
to be able to go through and repost everything and support everyone, and it's just like I'm not capable of it. Some people are amazing at social media. I'm not good at socializing in person. Do it online is just even worse. So apologies if anyone sees me as ignorant. Mate, I want to be friendly, and I am friendly.
And then there is some people who have so much time on their hands that they get aggrieved by something you've posted online and have time to follow all your socials and post laughing emojis and all your statuses and stuff. But we won't go into that.
Yeah, if people want to be passive aggressive, that's fine, mate. I know. Oh, laughing emoji back. Happy days. I think that probably wraps it up nicely there, Rob. It was nice to chat to you as always, guys. We better give out the feedback address again, right, quickly before I start dialing it down. So again, if you want to send us an email or get in touch with us, feedback@intheukgarage.com. Also hit us on all the socials at InTheUKGarage. And on the YouTube comments, we love them as well. So thank you everyone below this video. Yeah, big up, Rob, man.
And also be sure to check out intheukgarage.com/recommends to listen back in full to all the tunes we discussed in full length today on the episode.
God, I wish there was a way we could catalogue everything we've ever spoke about, because the list obviously got so big we had to dial it down.
Yeah, do you know what? In hindsight, it would have been cool to have like two playlists, wouldn't it? Well, what we should have done is had like a current one and then a retrospective one. I could do that if I had a couple of weeks spare. But
you got to pay the bills, mate. Let's prioritise, eh? Prioritise.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, all right. Well, let's wrap that up, mate. Yeah, great chatting to you as always.
Indeed, mate.
And I guess I'll see you again next time, eh?
I'm like a bad virus, mate. I keep coming back. Inappropriate timing to be saying, isn't I?
That's right.
As Omicron's dipping out.
That's right. Yeah, lockdown's easy, mate. You say you can make virus jokes again. That's fine. We will be back, contagious as ever, in a month's time. So I guess until then, big up and thank you for your ears.
Laters.
You get me? In the garage with Phonetix and BrainZ.